Welcome to It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach, where we are a faith-based organization that provides you with information and support while encouraging you with hope and faith to individuals that are impacted with a severe and persistent mental illness or those that are living with long-term negative situations in their lives.
Thank you for joining us and welcome.
All right. Last week, we talked about fear. This week, we'll be talking about fear of failure and how it can limit us.
Chronic illnesses, past hurts, and other negative life situations may have limited us in the past. They don't have to limit us now or control our future.
Absolutely. And we can learn from those things, use them as stepping stones, and move on to the next phase in our life. And that also is a choice.
Exactly. That's something that we have to make our mind up to do. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy.
That's right.
But the first step is making our mind up to say, you know what, I'm not going to let fear control me.
That's right.
You know, I'm going to do better. I'm going to move forward. Because again, we talk a lot about limitations. And that's what fear, and specifically tonight, a fear of failure will do for us. It will limit us. It will keep us on the sidelines. You know, it will keep us, you know, in a situation where we want to, but we're afraid to. You know, I want to, but I'm afraid of failing. You know, I want to do it, but I don't know how it's going to turn out. And what we're saying to people, and what we like to encourage our audience, is just to kind of go for it. Like they say, go for the gusto, just go for it. If you fail, you can try again.
Yeah, because we recognize that no one likes to fail. No one wants to be wrong. But it's in those times that we have failed and that we're wrong that we can learn something of value from it to be able to take us to a better step.
And I think that's so important when we talk about recovery. And how we, you know, we talked about on a former broadcast that recovery, whether it's from a mental illness or other negative life situation, doesn't necessarily mean that the illness is gone or that the situation is gone. Recovery just means that we are learning how to move forward. It just means that we are learning that despite the illness, despite the negative situation, that we can create a life.
That's right. So you want to tap into the positive in spite of the negative.
Exactly. And during that process, sometimes we will fail.
That's
because
right.
anytime you try something new, you know, you're probably not going to do it right the first time.
That's right.
So the thing is that you just have to keep doing it. The more we do it, the better we get at it.
That's right.
It's just that simple.
And life does bring some unforeseen circumstances in all of our lives.
Exactly. What we want to do, in keeping with our theme of all of the programs, is just share a few thoughts as it relates specifically to a fear of failure. Okay? Number one, failure does not have to be the end of the world.
That's right.
You know, and like you said, no one likes to fail, but when you fail at something, it does feel like, wow, this is it. You know, that you can't recover from it.
Yeah, because fear can be, fear of failure can be overwhelming. If we wallow in it.
Exactly.
It's a good word to use, if we wallow in it.
And why do you think, you know, fear, you know, you talk to a lot of people, why do you think fear can be such a negative thing or an overwhelming thing?
Well, because in itself it's tormenting, you know. And we talked last week about the thoughts that it brings. It talks about the negative feelings that it brings. It's makes us appear incapable. You know, and all of these are things that we do not like.
Right, and I think that's it. No one likes to be seen as they're stupid or to be thought of as they're not better than or as good as someone else. And the failure exposes all of that.
Yes, it does.
You know, so a lot of times when we take failure personally.
Yes, we do.
You know, we take it as an insult or it says something about us, and that's necessarily not the case.
That's right. That's right. And it brings in a false pride that causes us to take it to the negative.
Which again, when we focus on ourselves and we focus on, you know, well, I would do it, but I don't want to look stupid.
That's right.
You know, again, the I factor. So that's what can happen there. Two, nursing fear. You know, when we have a fear of failure or fear of anything, but in particular failure, when we begin to nurse that fear, and that means we begin to not or avoid situations that will cause us to fail, or that will cause us to be seen by other people as not being perfect.
Because we want to stay in that comfort zone, you know. In the comfort zone, I know what I can do over here, you know. So, and I don't need to try anything else.
God never called us to nurse any fears.
That's right.
Or any negative emotion.
That's right.
You know, any emotion that's going to prevent us from being all that He designed us to be is something that we don't need.
And if fear was something that, excuse me, I'm sorry. If fear was something that we did not encounter, if it wasn't a normal emotion that we would have.
And that's it. It's a normal emotion that's just kind of gotten out of control.
That's right. And God would not have said so many times, fear not. He told Joshua, fear not. He told Isaiah, fear not. He told us in the book of Matthew, fear not. He's constantly telling us, fear not. Because He's making us aware of this. These fears going to come.
Right.
But you got to make it up in mind, I will not fear. All right? So the fact that he says it as many times as I have, and I can't tell you right off exactly how many times, but as many times as I've read it, it lets me know that yes, it's important that we don't, and it is a emotion that is, as the word we use, is in your face type of emotion, and it can bring on all the negative emotions that one can feel, incapable, inefficient, you know. It brings a low self-esteem.
Right.
It brings on a lot of other things. So it's important. You're talking about not nursing it. Woe is me. This is all I can do, and this is just me. And you know, God knows and He understands. Yeah, He understands that I don't want to come out of my comfort zone.
And then we don't realize sometimes, some of us don't realize how damaging those things can actually be.
That's right.
You know, because when we say those things, you know, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors again go together. When we say those things, we really begin to believe it. And when we really begin to believe it, it affects our behavior. You know, when I go around thinking, oh, I just don't know how I'm going to make it. I don't know how I'm going to make it. Then I begin to act that way.
That's right.
And then when I begin to act that way, I begin to limit myself. And again, limit myself meaning that I don't do the things that God would have me to do, for us is in the way of destiny. You know, and that's what we talk about here on this program. We believe that everyone has a purpose for living, whether you have a mental illness or not, or any other negative situation. You do have a purpose. You can move beyond that situation. It doesn't mean that you forget about the situation or that it will go away. It just means that there's a way that you can learn to move beyond it. And you were going to say?
And one of the ways of overcoming fear of failure is to challenge my thoughts. You know, to come to the point, you know, if I feel like, oh, I can't do that, then I have to ask myself, have I tried? Why do I feel like I can't? You know? And in a lot of cases, it seems like it's easier to accept the negative because it's strange to all of a sudden come against my own thoughts.
Right, something that's been a part of you for so long.
Oh yes, yes. And it's you know, if I come against it, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Give yourself the opportunity to find out. You might be excited.
Right, exactly. There's a big life, a big world out there that's just waiting for you.
Yes.
And I think that's so important that we do that. We give ourselves that chance. That we don't allow fear or failure or any other negative emotion to limit us.
Yeah. It's time to come out of the norm.
Yeah, definitely. Number 3, failure can reveal what we really think about ourselves. And that kind of goes along with what we are saying. When we fail at something, what's the first thing that usually goes through our mind? Do we say, oh, okay, wow, you know, maybe better luck next time?
No.
You know, oh God, you're so stupid. Man, why did you do that? You could have done something differently. Oh gosh, you're so crazy. Then that's really telling us what's really inside of us, what we really think about ourselves.
I knew it wasn't going to work
Right.
out right. And we get bold with it.
Right, right.
You know, we get bold with the negative instead of, no, I will not think this way. And it's amazing because even with us, those of us who do not have a mental illness, you know, sometimes we've got to catch ourselves because the negative thoughts, it's our human nature is to think negative.
Yeah.
We have to be taught how to think better, you know, and even it's a lot of it starts from childhood.
Yeah.
They start out with, you can't do that.
Right.
You know, and so automatically those things seem to stick more so than you know you can go ahead and do that. You
Right.
know you can do it.
Yeah.
Then we feel the effects of it.
Mhm.
The body literally will respond to the words that it hears.
And unfortunately, there are some people, because like you said, their background, they kind of get into this mindset where they may not know anyone who's been successful. All they know is people trying and failing, and because that's all they know, they think that's all there is.
And but you know the amazing part is, and I was looking back through all the things that I've already read about the Bible, and I don't care where I've read, be it Abraham, be it Joshua, be it Elijah, Elisha, Isaac, whoever, I didn't read where God used more than one person for that special time and era that he wanted to use. So even in the midst of whatever it is, be it a mental illness, be it a long-term situation that you're in, God is using you right where you are in whatever unique way that he has made you, and allow him to show how victorious you are.
And sometimes that means coming out of your comfort zone.
Yes, it does.
You know, sometimes you might be the only one in your little circle that graduated from high school, or that's even made it to the 12th grade.
That's right.
And if you're not careful, you can internalize the negatives around you and begin to think, oh wow, things are not going to work out. You know, I'm not going to do this. And without even have tried. But because that's all you know are negatives, you know, that it's hard to think that there's anything else.
That's
And then when you do graduate from high school, then it's that feel like, oh my goodness, because you're the first person. No one around you has never graduated from high school. You're the first person that has done it. And of course there's going to be a little fear because you don't know anyone who has.
That's right.
And that's why it's so important that we begin to open up our circle, be around other people who can be that positive influence in our lives, and not necessarily just in high school, but in other things as well.
Yeah, even in our everyday life.
Right.
You know, we need, it may be something new on the job. It may be trying to get that new position,
Right.
or having to go out for a new job. You know, what if they don't like me? What all those thoughts will come. Those are normal thoughts
Right.
that come. And I'm learning it's not so much the thought as it is what I do with the thought.
Right.
But if I get to the place that I can recognize that negative thought and come against it, as I said in the earlier broadcast that we did, you know, it's taking those baby steps. Okay, and if I can overcome this thought today, tomorrow I might be able to overcome two thoughts. And as time go on, those negative thoughts won't come as easily, because I'm beginning to recognize it. I'm beginning to let them know you don't control me.
And sometimes it's helpful sometimes just to write things down, to keep a journal about the thoughts that you do have on a daily basis. And then you begin to say, okay, these are the thoughts that I had on a daily basis. What was my behavior as a result of these thoughts? You know, and again, you talked about before about murmuring and complaining. I think we mentioned that on another broadcast.
Yes.
But people don't realize that murmuring and complaining just reinforces the negatives.
Yes, it
It
does.
just reinforces, you know, and like you said, people get bold with it. Well, I can't do it,
Yeah.
you know, and they become upset when you bring up the idea that you can do it.
Right, that's
You know,
right.
because again, that's all they know. They've never practiced in their minds that, yeah, I can do this,
That's right.
that I can make a difference.
So one of the ways of overcoming the fear of failure is a mind renewal. That's what we're talking about.
And that's the hardest thing, but it's the most important thing, and it pays the most benefits.
That's right.
Because anybody can say, well, get a good book, which is helpful. You know, be around positive people, that's helpful. But what are you going to do after you read the book and after the positive people have gone home?
That's right.
Right? You're going to be left with you and your own thoughts.
That's right. That's right. That's
And
right.
it's so important. Okay? Next thing we have here is a question. When we fail at something, how does it make you feel inside? We talked about the thoughts that comes to our mind when we fail at something. But what about the feelings?
Yeah, because the first thing we usually do is attack ourselves.
Exactly. Attack ourselves.
I mean, if I see someone else that has failed at something, I might say, oh, you know, you can try it again. I'm ready to encourage that.
Right.
But when it comes to ourselves, we don't encourage ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We attack ourselves.
Exactly. And I think it's real easier to encourage everyone else to say, like you said, you know, you can do it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the spotlight is turned on us, it's like, you know, well, no, you know, I don't think so. That's
right.
okay.
That's right.
But again, it goes back to that mind renewal,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes back to really beginning to challenge our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
those negative thoughts, and not just letting them stay there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, thoughts go through your mind and say, "Are you so stupid?" I said, "No, you got to reframe that thought. No, I may not be smart in math, but it doesn't mean I'm stupid."
You know, I recognize also that we're living in a time where it's more apt to use negative words at one another than, so if I'm talking to friends and friends say something and oh, it's so stupid, and we laugh at it, but it's really a negative word. They're trying to use it in a cheerful way,
Right.
but it's a negative word. And if I'm used to those words with talking, interacting with one another, how much greater when I'm by myself.
Right.
You know, so, you know, it's important. I was someone I was talking to, and I recognized that's what they said. That actually word was stupid. I said, no, I'm not.
Right.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that. You know, you may not have, but how we're trying to, as I say again, use negative words in a positive situation. There's no way I can take your black blouse and say it's that white paper. It's just not going to work.
Right.
Okay? But we want to do that with words. And we don't realize, even the Bible lets us know that death and life is in the power of the tongue. Okay? So what power am I using on myself?
Exactly. Next thing we have here, again, fear, we talked about it before, can open the door. Even though we're talking about a fear of failure, but a fear in general can open the door to a lot of other negative emotions. One thing that it does, emotions and behaviors, it can cause us to go around putting ourselves down all the time, just like you said.
Yes.
And the danger, going back to that example that, you know, someone said, oh, you're so stupid. The danger with that is, you know, they say it is released out in the atmosphere, you laugh about it, and then something happens, maybe a week or two later, and what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Oh, he's just so stupid.
I'm so stupid.
You know, and then it's amazing because all of these negative thoughts will join together against us, usually at our weakest moment.
That's right.
And that's when it really comes up, you know, at our weakest moment, and we're thinking, wow, you know, I didn't get that contract. And then that thought comes to your mind, oh, you're so stupid. And then you wonder, well, did she really mean that? Or maybe she really thought I was stupid. Maybe she really knows that I'm stupid, and there's something she's not telling me. And then before you know it, you start beating yourself down, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And that's a really simple example, but there are others that we can use. So we have to be careful about the thoughts and be careful about the words.
That's right.
And it's true. It's not necessarily the words that someone says. It's how we take those words.
Yes.
And that's really important.
That's right.
And if I already have a problem with negative thinking, I don't need, you know, anything else to add to that. I have enough challenges already.
That's right.
Another thing, a fear of failure can cause us to think that failure is all we deserve. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who, because of maybe their life circumstances or going back to what we said before, maybe they haven't seen success. Or if they've seen success, they've seen it success in a drug dealer, or they've seen success in, you know, in a person stealing cars, all the negative type of ways to get quote unquote success.
Right.
So they really don't know what real success is.
That's right.
So for them, they just think, you know, well, you know,
Excuse me.
it is what it is. You know, they don't really have a vision of what success is, and then when things happen to them, they think that's all that they deserve.
Right. And begin to back to words again. I'll never do any better than this.
Because no one else has done any better.
That's
You know,
right.
and my mother was in the my grandmother was on welfare. My mother was on welfare. I'm on welfare. God dog, my kids gonna be on welfare too.
That's right.
And that's just kind of even if we don't say it, that's the way we act.
Right. That's right.
You know, and then you have situations where men or women, they find themselves in these negative relationships. And you know, well, why don't you just leave? But unfortunately, for some people, it's here. If that's all they think, if they think, well, this is it, you know, this is all I deserve.
And some people feel like, well, maybe if I just move away to another state. And I remember sharing with someone, I don't care if you go from here to West Africa, if you don't renew your mind,
Right.
All you've done is change a geographical area. It's still going to be there.
Exactly. Because you could be, I don't care whether you're in the suburbs or you're in the ghetto, so to speak. You can be successful in this ghetto just like you can be successful in the suburbs. The difference is your mindset.
The thing is, if you notice, it recognize, I can't do this by myself, don't be ashamed to get help.
Exactly.
Please don't be ashamed to get help. You know, we're living in a time when there's help for almost any situation. Okay. And the problem is we won't move on.
Right. We're too embarrassed, or going back to what we said earlier, you know, I don't want people to know that I need help. Or I don't want people to realize that I have this fear.
I don't want anybody to know my business. That self thing again. But that self thing is what's keeping me from moving forward. That's keeping me in failure.
Exactly. And it's keeping me behind the fence. And the bad thing about being behind the fence is that I won't come out and that people won't come in. You know, you're stuck. You're limited.
That's right.
So again, it's really important to kind of get the help that you need.
That's right.
You know, if you feel that you need that. Again, failure, a fear of failure, one reason why people don't overcome it is because they take it personally. You know, I equate failure with who I am. So if I fail at something, that means I must be a failure. And if I must be a failure, then you get into self-esteem or low self-esteem issues.
Right.
When the fact is, you may have failed at something, but it doesn't mean that you're a failure.
That's right.
You know, it doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that, A, I need a little help, or 2, I have to try something different.
That's right.
And again, going back to challenging the beliefs with the Word of God. Or, you know, and I just want to say here, we talk about challenging, you know, people will quote scriptures, oh, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Or they get some kind of other mantra, I'm a wonderful person. They get up every morning, I'm a wonderful person. And that's all wonderful and great. You want to do that. And they get the Word of God and say, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That's great. But what's, again, is so important is that we begin to challenge those thoughts. Because I can say that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and that I'm a wonderful person. But if I don't let those thoughts really get into those words really get into my thoughts, then all they are is words.
That's right.
And it shows up.
That's right. That's right. So we've got to apply them.
Exactly.
We've got to come to some application.
Because if I say, oh, I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me, and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and then when something happens, the first thing out of my mouth is, oh gosh, you're so stupid. Then that lets me know.
Null and void the positive.
And that I really don't believe that. I really don't believe that. Okay? A fear of failure can have a negative impact on our future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the negative is I never move out to do anything else because I already have already set my own determination of my destiny. So why even move forward?
Right. And I think that's a sad thing to base our future on the negative things that have happened to us in the past.
That's right.
You know, each day that we live is an opportunity to do something different.
Absolutely.
To change our lives for the better.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that the negative things in our lives will go away. But once we begin to change the way we think about it, our perception will change.
Absolutely.
You know, we have to begin to see that we are more capable than we give ourselves credit
That's
for.
right.
You know,
That's right.
you know, we don't have to fall apart every time something happens.
Yeah.
You know, I have a bill. Well, I'll probably have a bill next week, next month.
That's right.
You know, I had a bill last year, and you know, so again, that's something that happens. Bills are, for many of us, you know, unless you're Oprah or Bill Gates, are, you know, are a part of life.
That's right.
So the thing is, I may as well, like you mentioned, get a plan and begin to work through it.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. How people see failure. And when you think about that, Missionary Kelly, how people see failure, why is that so important?
We seem to be really concerned about how other people perceive us. Right? So much so that we allow other people's ideas dictate. And that's still in the line of failure. You know, how am I going to meet this other person's expectations of me? Right? Instead of being honest with myself and straight with me first. Okay? And when I can come to that point, it really doesn't matter how other people view my failures. All right? How someone else view what we do when we see someone that has failed at something. Instead of finding out how we can help that person, we're more quick to ridicule, to want to hold them in that state, as a, you know, hold it over their head. If you hadn't did this, you wouldn't have this, you wouldn't have that, you know. But instead of, let's sit down and see what happened and caused you to come to this point, and then let's go to the next step. And we're not always that quick to do that.
Now, say I don't have anyone in my life that can do that for me. Am I destined just to be a failure because I don't have? What can I do?
Reach out myself. Instead of, and so many times we want to wait for others to come to us. Right. You know, it's time to take that step and reach out. Yeah. Just to get the help that I need.
Right. And I think that said, when you look at some of the people who we consider to be successful, many of them are successful in spite of a lot of negative situations. That's right. And the thing is, if they can do it, you can do it too. That's right. No, we all may not be Bill Gates or, you know, Donald Trump, but we can all fulfill our destiny that we have. And that destiny may be just to be a greeter, you know, to be an encourager. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as we're doing what God has given us to do or what He has created us for. And having a mental illness or being in the midst of a negative life situation doesn't negate the fact that you have a purpose.
That's right.
With a plan, failure is just a stepping stone to greatness. What does that mean?
With a plan, failure is just a stepping stone to greatness. If I can take those failures, as I said before, find out where I missed it, right, what caused me to fail in this point, and use it to overcome that, rather than just sulk in it. All right? And when I, first of all, overcoming the failure is an overcoming in itself. All right? So if I've overcome and I'm not laying there wallowing in self-pity and self-degrading and low self-esteem and all those things, now I've already begun to come out of failure. All right? So then the next step would be, okay, so what do I do that I don't fall in this situation again? Not saying that it may not ever come up again, because sometimes it does. Right. But the fact that I can spot it is a plus to going forward. All right? So, you know, that's the stepping stone. The stepping stone is recognizing it, seeing where I missed it, and being able to spot it the next time that I don't fall in that state again, and step over it.
Thank you for joining us. This has been It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with Ornetta Legree and Missionary Corrine Kelly. God bless you and good night.